Huh? Mm. Ask Reddit. What is the creepiest thing you've heard a child say? My high school girlfriend had a little brother who was like 3 or 4 at the time. One day we were babysitting him and playing with cars on the floor. Out of nowhere, he starts looking really concerned and looking around. We keep playing, but he stands up and walks into the garage. We follow him and he just keeps looking toward the wall and starts crying. My girlfriend kept asking him what's wrong, and he, through all of his weeping, he gets out. He says, "I am his." Still freaks me out just to think about it. I used to teach swimming lessons for preschoolers, and we had this one kid named Cass, who was the cutest little guy ever. Also, one of the only ones brave enough to let us take him into the deep end with a life jacket on. Well, one day I was swimming slowly with him holding onto my shoulders, and I could hear him talking to himself. I wondered what he'd smell like if I burnt him up. I think the little guy was talking about me. Kids lie. A lot. And often just because. Story time. Several years ago, I was spending summer vacation with some extended family at their condos. One of my uncles, we'll call Dimitri, spent the first half of the vacation dealing with work problems over the phone, so he basically spent most of his time alone in his room. About 3 days in, he left to catch a flight back to home at early ass 30. Same day, most of the grown-ups wanted to go bar crawl, so I agreed to watch the kids since I was 19. My youngest, 5-year-old at the time cousin, Yolanda, came up to me and said, "Uncle Dimitri touched me." I asked her where and when, and she told me it happened in his room like 10 minutes ago. Now, Dimitri is second most flamboyant gay man I've ever known, and he was probably at the luggage carousel in Dulles at the time of the supposed touching. Turns out the other cousins were watching some crime show on TV. Yolanda saw kids on the show being questioned by a shrink after being molested, and she just thought all the attention would be appealing. Kids lie, and that's why I'll never work with children. One summer, my Korean neighbors were having a little cousin of theirs visit from Japan. She is from Korea, just lives there. Her name was Una. There were 4 of my Korean neighbors. There's a girl 1 year younger than me, and a girl who was 9 years at the time, a boy who was 7, and a 4-year-old. God bless their mother. Now, the kids' first language was Korean. The 2 older girls spoke perfect English. The older boy spoke English, but broken, and his sentence structure was very bad. The littlest one spoke a little bit, but only enough to communicate what he wanted. Una, the visiting cousin, spoke absolutely no English at all. Una was about 7. Una was a huge bitch for being only 7. You may think I'm being harsh, but I'm not. Una was an only child who was spoiled to no ends. She demanded things to be her way, hit all the kids when they didn't give her their ice cream, even the girl who was my age at the time, about 14 or 15. But she did this all in Korean. I had no idea what she did. I could only infer by her actions and yelling at them. The older girl said she spewed complete filth and nasty comments to them, even the 4-year-old. She was visiting the entire summer, and we were only 2 weeks in, and she was making everyone's life hell. The mom did nothing about it, at all, leaving the little ones helpless. I tried to help with the little bit of Korean I had picked up from being at their house often over the years. Mostly just how to yell and tell the kids to stop fighting. I babysat a lot, but there was nothing I could do. Una was a vicious tyrant, spitting out Korean and Japanese swears. She lives in Japan, but was Korean, and would think the answer to this question would come from a translation of her filth. Oh, but no. It was a result of her tyranny. At one point, the older boy, her age, was tired of her, taking his toys, ice cream, money, and hitting him. He had had enough. Remember, he spoke English, but it was very broken. But that day, 2 weeks into summer, realizing he had about 2 more months left living with Adolf Una, he said on the weirdest thing a child could have picked up at his age with such broken English. The only way to get Una away is to kill myself. He proceeded to lock himself in the bathroom. He also screamed from inside the bathroom. If I never see Una again, it'll be too soon. In perfect, flawless English. Where did he hear these things? I had no idea. But it was goddamn creepy and terrifying to hear from a 7-year-old who had just locked himself in the bathroom to a 14-year-old girl babysitting like 4 kids. The older sister was out with friends. But God, I hate that girl too. If I ever see Una again, it'll be too soon. My son at the age of 5, talking about Minecraft. I killed the creeper and then burned down his house. Oh, I should have burned down his house with him inside. Doing both things at once. I don't know where you've been playing Minecraft, but you need to take a break for a little while. Figuring out how to best kill someone and destroy their property is not a skill you quite need yet. This happened about 3 years ago. I went on vacation with my parents to go see some family in Calgary, Alberta. They were pretty young parents and had 2 kids. One 6 and the other 3. Both were born with pretty bad speech impediments, and the 6-year-old barely spoke, while the 3-year-old couldn't. Since they were a good age for it, we decided to take them to Drumheller. Basically, the whole town is dedicated to dinosaurs. One of the last stops of the day was an old mine that had some houses that miners supposedly lived in. My parents and the 3-year-old went into the building, while I left the 6-year-old with me. About halfway through the house, he pointed at a closet and said, "Boy killed girl here." He was pretty young, so I asked him what he meant. It was a big mistake. He elaborated. Boy killed girl in the neck with knife and put her in a closet. Boy left after. Needless to say, I shit my pants and got the hell out of Dodge. After we stopped in the gift shop, however, I asked the cashier if there had ever been any hauntings here, and she told me the exact same story. Sorry for any errors, I'm immobile, and it was a while ago. My little sister used to look out the window in the car, and sometimes at home, and talk to herself when she was 3 or 4. When we asked who she was talking to, she would say, "My friend Kelly in the clouds." And we asked why she was in the clouds, she would say, because her mom gave her too much medicine. Not overly creepy, but the same year, my stepmom got pregnant, and she asked all the older siblings for name suggestions, and she decided to go with my sister's choice of Kelly. Wigmer87 says in the comments, "That's foreshadowing if I've ever seen it." And I would have to agree with you, Wigmer. That's definitely foreshadowing. A friend of a friend brought a 3-year-old grandson to our house. The kid picked up a small metal shovel and said to another 3-year-old little girl that was there with her dad, "I'm going to break your fucking head with the shovel." As soon as he realized he had heard and seen what was going on, he put the shovel down to pretend that nothing happened. We alerted both adult parties, but unfortunately there doesn't seem to be any real consequences for this kid. Tech Deck replies, "Yeah, because it's just a little kid saying something stupid he probably saw online." OP responds to him, "Unfortunately, this particular kid's issues go much further than that. I was told this years later. He was kicked out of at least 2 different nursery schools for violence toward other children, and has been known to punch animals. Clearly needs help and isn't receiving it."